Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Coming soon from Gamble Comics, BC Brute. Rise of the Guardians came out in 2012, ran 1 hour and 37 minutes. Chris Pine narrating. He is speaking of his appreciation for the moon lighting the way, and he then finds a staff that can freeze stuff. Dang, James T. Kirk can fly with this staff, but pilot Steve Trevor crashes and he seems to be a ghost of some sort. I don't quite understand what's going on. The moon told him his name was Jack Frost. None of this really makes a lot of sense. He appreciates the moon, but the moon told him his name's Jack Frost. He can be walked through and can't be seen. Alright. Well, at least it's intriguing. The movie then jumps 300 years into the future, and we go to the North Pole. This Santa Claus is so much fun. He is huge, tattooed, and skilled at carving ice. A Yeti-type creature comes to get him. His elves are very unique. Also, the Tooth Fairy and all her minions look like hummingbirds. Of sorts. She's the least hummingbird-looking one of them all, but the Sandman has a good look to him. And the Easter Bunny is played by Hugh Jackman, and he looks nothing like you would expect an Easter Bunny to appear, but it's in a good way. North is what they call Santa, and the boogeyman is called Pitch Black. Sandy is what the Sandman goes by here in this film, and they're doing a good job of world building, setting up what to expect and why these people are working together. My goodness, everyone is recognizable, but also very much a twist on the tradition. The Man in the Moon has chosen a new guardian. It is, of course, Jack Frost. Bunny didn't want the groundhog to join the team, which is funny because they do little bits like this throughout where they allude to the world being bigger than what we know, like this Groundhog Day reference. Sandy wanted a leprechaun, which makes me think that they are planning on more movies, or you would have thought that by the way that they reference things, but it never happened, and it's been quite a while since this movie came out. So now I'm curious, if it wasn't that Jack is a ghost, or rather that all the Guardians are invisible, because Frost has a complex, since he is spoken of, but no one believes he is real. Jack is just so very fun and caring. Given that he has been alone for over 300 years, Jack just wants to be loved, and it is very understandable. But it's also hard for me to wrap my head around him being this positive for being that alone. Jack begs the Man in the Moon, tell me why he put me here. Frost doesn't know. His answer is on the way. Hello, Pitch Black. This boogeyman is played by Jude Law, and he rocks with the bad guy presence. Pitch Black says that him and Manny, the man in the moon, are old friends. But because Jude Law was playing the antagonist, I'm not entirely certain that that can be trusted. Frost and Bunny are rivals from Easter 1968. The Yetis are, or maybe they're like Bigfoots, I'm not sure. They have this teleportation ability, and the Easter Bunny can thump tunnels. There's so much going on with all of these characters. Like, I'm not even sure that they even tapped the well all the way for what all these characters can do. One thing that I do find interesting is that Sandy is a mute. Although I guess with the Sandman, coming to help you drift off to sleep, that's understandable, I guess, to some degree, that he doesn't speak. North is played by Alec Baldwin, and he is putting on such an over-the-top accent, but I don't know, I find it enjoyable. Big fan of the grumpy elves that work at the North Pole. Jack is so mad that the man in the moon doesn't talk to him, but he sends messages to the Guardians to recruit Jack. But again, Jack, I think, kind of misunderstands it because the Guardians interpret what the Moonlight references. It's not like it's talk. Jack calling the Easter Bunny a kangaroo is super, well, it's fun, and it makes the Easter Bunny mad, which is extra good. This all leads to North taking Frost into the heart of the North Pole. North is full of wonder. It is what he protects in the children. That's what makes him a guardian. And so that leads to North telling Jack that he needs to figure out what his center is, using Russian nesting dolls. Frost doesn't know at this point what it is that makes him him. And at that moment, Bunny barges in because the Guardians need to help the fairies, the Tooth Fairies, so they take Santa's sleigh. Not only the Yetis, but also seemingly North himself has the ability to create wormhole type things. Yep, Pitch is so very good at this bad guy game. Pitch wants to be believed in because, the boogeyman doesn't exist, basically. And so Pitch tells Jack that he is going to ignore him. He thinks that Frost must be used to it by now since nobody can see him. The man in the moon brought the Guardians together in the Dark Ages to give kids hope. Pitch in his nightmares took out all the fairies to kill the kids' belief in the Tooth Fairy concept. The Tooth Fairy lore is very deep here, deeper than I've ever heard of before. The Tooth Fairies protect kids' most precious childhood memories. North and Bunny, also Sandy, are going to cover for the fairies, and Jack is in to help because he wants to get his childhood memories back since he doesn't know who he is, or I guess more specifically was. This leads to a fun tooth collecting montage. The Guardians forgot to leave gifts, so they all have to go back to the same homes that they were just in. And because they're not good at the Tooth Fairy game, North leaves candy canes and Bunny leaves Easter eggs because that's just what they're used to. While some villains may have been disheartened by the fact that all these good guys, these baby faces, teamed up to make it so that his mission of taking out those Tooth Fairies seemed for nothing, Pitch Black believes that their efforts were for nothing. Jack is crushed that the same kid that he helped have a fun sleigh ride snow day at the early part of the film doesn't even know that he exists. All the heroes are fighting Pitch, and his nightmares. The the kid that Jack Frost helped with the sled ride, his little sister, goes through one of the portals, I assume to the North Pole, but possibly not. And this whole fight, Jude Law he's so good at delivering his evil lines. When the Guardians awaken from being knocked out by Pitch Black's nightmares, Sandy is being killed or possibly corrupted by the boogeyman. I'm not sure precisely as to what's happening. Frost is able to freeze the nightmare manifestations, and Pitch feels like Jack is some real competition, which is, a good thing for the bad guy to want. Pitch Black thinks fighting Jack Frost is fun. When the Guardians have a funeral for the Sandman, I really just don't seem to care because this is a kid's movie and there's no way that the Sandman will not return. The bunny believes, with Easter being tomorrow, that they can still save the day. I was wrong. Sophie, the little sister, didn't go to the North Pole. She ended up in the bunny's home base. Jack realizes that the Guardians may protect kids, but they seem to know basically nothing about kids. North says they are too busy, which is amusing because that's one of the things. Like, Jack is always out trying to help kids have a good time, creating snow days, helping them, have fun sledding. And Sophie helps Bunny and crew understand why that they do what they do. Jack takes Sophie home, and then he hears a familiar voice calling his name from, well, I'm not really, from the, oh, his name was being called from a well? I'm not sure. Pitch is hiding all of the childhood memories, and so with that, Pitch used a memory against Jack Frost. Yes, yeah, that's what's happening. The boogeyman is offering Jack his memories, but this feels like manipulation. Yet Pitch Black, or should I say Jude Law, is doing a great job actually convinced Jack that this was all a good idea. I'm guessing it was some sort of nightmare, maybe? Yeah, I mean, that seems logical, that if the boogeyman has the ability to scare you in nightmares, that possibly he used that ability to get Jack Frost messed up enough that he and his minions could mess with all the work that the Guardians did to try and help the bunny get back on track. That feels right. Speaking of Bunny, he wants Frost gone. Oh no, all of Jamie's friends are jealous that he still has dreams, Jamie being the brother of Sophie. And since they all just now have nightmares, it feels like Pitch Black is winning in the fight against the Guardians. We now get Pitch Black versus Jack Frost in a very cool fight. Boogeyman wants to form a team. What goes together better than cold and dark? Only Jack says no, and Pitch Black threatens to kill Baby Tooth, one of the little fairies, until Jack gives up his staff so as to be able to save the fairy. Jack gives it up. He gives the staff to the boogeyman, who breaks it. This act of heroism of Jack Frost helping save the fairy from the boogeyman, or Pitch Black, or whatever you want to call him, Jude Law, it helps Jack Frost remember saving his little sister from falling to her frozen death on some ice over 300 years ago. And this moment of putting others first is what led to the Man in the Moon knowing that Jack Frost could be a guardian, and it's what led to him getting this second chance. And it actually reinvigorates Jack Frost to get back in the fight. Pitch is taking over the North Pole. Only one child still believes, and of course, it is the child that Jack helped enjoy that snow day, Jamie. So Jack Frost goes to Jamie's house. Jamie wants proof because all of his friends are thinking he's the nuts one for still believing. And so Jack Frost puts frost on the window and draws an Easter egg in the frost on the window. Also, he brings a frosted bunny to life, which is a pretty cool moment. Jamie now believes in Jack Frost, and Jamie can see and hear Jack. And he's like, "You're real?" And I was just like, wow, that's some positive development here. The boogeyman is not going to stand for this. Jack, North, Tooth, the Tooth Fairy, Bunny, and a much smaller Easter Bunny are all at Jamie's house now. It's time for that final conflict. Jude Law making fun of Hugh Jackman for being tiny and asking if he wants a scratch behind the ears was a nice touch. Jack realizing fun is his center, just like North had told him to find, was a good or a fun revelation for the Jack character because he, from the start, when we got to the modern day time, that does seem to be his go-to, is trying to help kids have a good time. And the kids who believe in the Guardians now are willing to stand up to the boogeyman, and this belief helps free Sandy from Pitch Black's clutches, with Golden Dreams breaking out of the Black Nightmares. The Guardians are stronger together, and again, this is why I couldn't get behind the death of the Sandman, because I knew that it was never going to last. With the Sandman free, he knocks out Pitch Black, and all of the nightmares turn back into dreams, leading to the kids believing, again, Jack's center of fun is just so cool, which makes sense because he's Jack Frost. The boogeyman is now present but not seen by the children, so Jude Law is now suffering from what Chris Pine had happened to him early on. It's very well done. You can't get rid of me as long as fear exists was a good closing line for the bad guy, but his own fear is eating him alive or consuming him. And Jamie hugs Jack goodbye, and it means a lot to the Jack character, not just to get hugged, but to be acknowledged. It was a very good 4 out of 5 film, and it did a really good job of answering the questions as it went along. I was thinking at one point that Guardians 2 Father Time's Wrath could be a fun follow-up where there's a Father Time character that takes out North before Christmas, and so Jack has to take over the role of Santa Claus, something of that nature. But that's the thing, is like, if you just find other, like, you could even have a Guardians 3 Halloween Eve, where an evil, queen witch character it needs to be taken out by, new recruits that you pick up. I don't know. It's a fun idea that I'm surprised they didn't do more with.